So Greg just found a Barbour's map turtle in the creek over there, and I'm over here in the oxbow, and look at this big, beautiful cottonmouth. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Let's just chill out. No need to get worked up, big guy. Good morning, everybody. We are in the midst of what has probably been the driest stretch of 2025 thus far. Now that it's September and October are two of our driest months of the year. In the event that we don't have a very active tropical storm system, which has been really quiet this year so far. We haven't had any hurricanes or tropical storms hit Georgia or come anywhere close yet. But the fact that it's been dry means the creeks are low, and we're going to have an opportunity to do some creek walking in pretty prime conditions. This year has been a little bit slow on the creek walking. I haven't been able to get out as much as I would like to because the water has just been so high. And that's, of course, due to the very wet year we've had in 2025 up until the last couple of weeks. So Greg's going to join us today. We're going to do some creek walking and hopefully encounter some turtles and snakes. So I'm going to get in the water and see what we can turn up. Let's get to it. All right, unsurprisingly, first turtle of the day, a nice loggerhead. This is probably one we've caught before. He's got a pretty distinct injury here on the back of his shell. Should be pretty recognizable in photos, but very nice. It's a healthy turtle other than that injury that is long since healed, so we'll just put him back in the creek, but very, very cool. I'm assuming we'll be seeing lots of these today, so we'll just let him go. You can see just how clear the water is. It's perfect weather for this today. This is the best looking I have seen this creek, maybe ever, definitely in years. This is like a dream. The clarity is unbelievable. Look at this. Oh my goodness. You can just see turtles so well in the water. Look at that. This is going to be just an absolutely monumental day, if I had to guess. It is unbelievable how beautiful this creek is at the moment. This is only our second turtle. Look at that. I'm only really grabbing these so I can get diagnostic voucher photos of them, but this is a big, old, impressive adult. Look at that. Definitely not a turtle you want to get bit by. That's a big pile of turtle poop. I don't know where it went, but I've taken literally 2 steps. Here's another loggerhead. I'm probably going to strap the GoPro up just because the amount of turtles I expect us to see today. But look at that. You can tell clearly a different turtle. They all have very similar shell injuries, and that's as a result of all the larger turtles that also live in this creek. Look at this little dude. Little hatchling eastern fence lizard. He's minuscule. That is a beautiful loggerhead. Look at the pattern on this guy. Definitely the prettiest one of the day. He's still kind of like a subadult juvenile stage, or maybe a small adult male. Kind of looks like a young female though. Very, very good looking turtle. We finally got a baby-ish turtle. This is like a yearling or half a year old loggerhead. Very, very small, but not as small as they come. If we find fresh hatchlings anytime in the next few weeks, which I'm sure we will, you'll see what I mean. But super cute even at this size. I did it. Me and Greg have been losing Nerodia and talking about how they used to be so much more common in this creek all day. And I just flipped that guy under this rock. Would be a really pretty snake freshly shed. You can see even deep in shed, he's got some really nice reddish color on him. We'll just let him slip back into the water. All right, we're finally getting into some Nerodia. Greg just spotted this big unit tearing around in the creek. And that is like definitely on the upper end of what I'd say is normal, if not a little bigger than what we ever normally expect to see. Which is weird because it definitely seems that they're declining in these creeks, but we still see just absolute units of very healthy looking water snakes regularly here. I mean, if we see a water snake here, it's not weird to see just a giant healthy one like this. Very, very nice looking snake, just like the last one. And obviously, even though they've declined, they're still fairly common. Definitely one of the most common snakes to see in creeks still. But I would say, honestly, around here, cottonmouths are usually a lot easier to find, just not in this particular creek. All right, big guy, or probably big girl in this instance. Well, needless to say, we've seen a lot more of these than I've shown. Easily the most common herp of the day, as usual, whenever we're in a creek that has a lot of them. But you can see, this one's also quite beat up. Greg was saying that a lot of this is just from beefing with each other rather than other species of turtles. But every once in a while, we find one with a pretty gnarly mark that's almost certainly from a snapper.
Oh, that one's actually...
Oh, you're looking at a different one. There's one here, too.
There's a loggerhead musk. Like
Hey, don't beef with your fellow species. Greg's got one over here too.
here we go.
That's a big one, dude. Holy cow. Biggest one of the day.
You got two.
Yeah, we were looking at different ones. I thought you were looking at the same one as me, and then you started going after a different turtle. All right, there's our proper turtle stack. We've got 3 different classes of Sternotheris minor here. 2 more normal sized ones, and then just an absolute tank of a female. You can see she's got a snub nose where at some point something bit off the tip of her nose, conjoined her nostrils. You can see there's a normal nose, and then there's her. But I'm gonna let these other 2 go because they're pretty similar to the ones we've been seeing today, and I'll show you this old tank of a female up close. Let's see, here we go. There you guys go. And look at this. You can see her shell is just worn down smooth. It just has a completely different structure to it than those other 2. Really, really cool. Look at this dude. Can't see him very well because how far away we are, but there's another loggerhead. It's a nice Carolina mantis. Always nice to see the native mantis. Or I guess we probably have several native ones, but this is the prolific native mantis. And then we have the prolific invasive Chinese mantis. There's a shed.
What do you think that is? Like a ring neck?
Yeah. Plus
I can see the ring.
Ring neck or decay eye. That weird size of decay eye that has a ring. Oh, worm snake. Under worm snake rock. Nice. Little flip clip. All right, well, here's our first non-Nerodia of the day. Nice little floppy worm snake. Deep in shed. Kind of a weird thing to see this time of year. Worm snakes are one of those snakes that's very prolific in the spring and then becomes increasingly uncommon later in the summer when it dries out. But he's presumably using that rock to shed, and that's about the only reason we found him. So this is really cool. We've got a number of Desmognathus prolapsus under here, and this one is actually in a nesting cavity, and attached to the underside of the rock is eggs. Desmogs are a kind of ambiguous nesting salamanders, so they're not nesting inside of the normal winter breeding window that most other salamanders do. Very, very cool. That's a kind of weird one. There's 2 basking loggerheads on the same log right there. I feel like I see basking loggerheads a lot more in like the early spring than I do any other time of year. But I mean, I guess September. Look at that one, the tiny one's in the sun and the other one's not too. Really weird.
We must have walked past that earlier.
Either that or it wasn't out yet. There's a big crack in that tree he might have come out of. Look at that. Huge, beautiful black rat snake. Not a common find around here, weirdly enough. So this is actually really interesting. If you were to drive a little bit, just 15 minutes west of here, you would start seeing gray rat snakes. And like, it's weird though, because I'm not sure I've ever seen a fully grown rat snake in this county until today. And here we have one. And I was actually a little bit surprised to find out that it's just pretty much a classic black rat snake. He does not appear to have any intentions of being cooperative with me, but he's not biting me, he's not musking on me. And of course there's exceptions to that, but most of the time when you're finding black rats, at least in the metro Atlanta area, they are a lot chiller than the gray rats. And he's got this weird little scaly growth on his neck. I've never seen anything quite like that. When we first caught him, I thought it was like a little piece of shed that was coming off prematurely, but no, it's just like a fleshy little scaly appendage. It's actually like completely floppy. There's not a bone in there or anything. Very, very weird. But we'll return this guy to his tree. Nice big healthy adult black rat snake. And actually the first adult, like fully grown adult black rat I've ever seen in this county, where I spent a lot of time, a whole lot of time. You want to return him to the tree?
Yeah.
Do the honors. He's got like a hollow spot right here, and I think More than likely, when we came through here first thing this morning, he was not out yet, or he was sitting in the sun further up the tree. But I'm guessing he's just using that little hollow to shed. Maybe even hunt for rodents that might be using it, coming in and out. But we'll get back to it. Man, the snakes are just out all of a sudden. We got a gaster blaster right there. He looks like he might have something wrong with his mouth. We're gonna try to catch him though and see. All right, guys, as it would turn out, this snake was just sitting weird. He's a little bit skinny, but he doesn't appear to have anything outwardly wrong with him. Very, very pretty snake as always. Just a little bit on the thin side. Probably a kind of lankier built male as well, rather than a female with Nerodia. Like that big Cypodon we saw earlier was probably a big female. They tend to be like baby machines. They give live birth, so the bigger the snake, the more babies they can have. The more fit they are to survive, produce a lot of babies, and ensure the survival of their species. But very, very pretty water snake. We'll just let him go back on the edge of this kind of pond here. Classic erythrogaster habitat. You go with him?
Yep.
All right, there you go, buddy. Right under the log. That almost broke my leg. I ran it. Greg got it on GoPro, but I like bum rushed him and I hit this mud and I just like shinned myself in the log in like the worst way imaginable. All right, we are literally just trying to go back to the car so we can go get lunch and head to another spot, and we just keep finding snakes. Here's a nice racer. I'm honestly not sure. Oh no, we have seen racers. There's that one little den by the creek where we used to see like piles of Nerodia in the spring. You remember that? And there would always be a racer hanging out with them.
Yeah.
I think that's the only place I've ever seen racers here prior to today. But very nice, healthy adult black racer, little guy, but definitely a reproductively mature snake. All right, we're gonna let this guy zip. He was going up the hill, which is apparently just where he wants to go.
Yeah, that's what.
All right, there it is. Ye old floodplain dry September chorus frog. These are such weird frogs. Like most of the time when we're seeing them, it's in the winter, but in this particular area, for some reason, I just randomly will find them when it's super dry out, hopping around in the woods. But a very, very beautiful little frog. They honestly look way better this time of year when you see them during the day than they do in the winter. All right, we've transitioned into more cottonmouthy habitat, and sure enough, right there, our first cottonmouth of the day, all stained in mud. Very, very nice. Sitting in ambush in the middle of a raccoon game trail. You can see little raccoon prints, maybe a deer print in front of it. But he's just hanging out in the middle of this mammal trail. And a lot of people might be surprised to hear this, but cottonmouths will eat mammals too, just about anything. I've personally watched one strike and kill a chipmunk. I didn't actually see it eat the chipmunk, but it presumably did because we came back a little bit later and they were both gone. But very, very cool. We'll just leave this guy to it. He's clearly in ambush, waiting for something to come along so we can get a meal. A little bit skinny too, so he needs it. Maybe even a postpartum female. All right, guys, this big retention pond just produced our next find. I thought this was going to be a mud turtle. At first I thought it was a loggerhead, then I thought it was a mud turtle. As it would turn out, it's just the world's oldest and maturest of stink pots. And if you were here right now, you'd be able to smell that along with see it. You can see no hinged plastron. You know, if you just look at it from the top and see the head, it kind of looks a lot like a mud turtle, but it is in fact just a big old male stinker. Cool looking turtle though. I mean, it's always cool to see exceptionally old and well-developed examples of really any turtle species. So we'll just return him to his retention pond. Very, very cool. First stink pot of the day, probably the only stink pot. I was just telling Greg how I don't see cottons in this stretch, and I looked down and right, oh, well, there he went. All right, Greg has nabbed our first turtle in this stretch of creek, a one-eyed slider that may or may not be one I've caught before. I was just telling Greg, all the sliders I've caught here have had one eye and been very round. This one's not particularly round. Oh, he's gonna...
Yeah, it's in the middle of a shed. You can see some of these are just coming off.
Very interesting. There's a good eye right there. This guy is in the middle of a shed. You can see these scales are scutes. Is this just like the top layer of the scute? Is that how a turtle shed works?
Yeah, it's just like kind of a top layer that's, you know, basically this is ready to pop off. You know, that's why they come off so easily. If they didn't come off easily, I wouldn't, you know, do this, but these have been pretty much ready to go for a while. Like that one's still a little sticky, so you leave it, but you get like a good idea of the kind of the pattern the turtle has, and then One way to tell a slider from a cooter is sliders have these little indents on each marginal. So they have like more of a sawtoothed rear edge, and cooters don't have that.
Watch this. So satisfying. All right, big dude. Or dudette. Looks so weird swimming with his head tucked in. So Greg just found a Barbour's map turtle in the creek over there, and I'm over here in the oxbow, and look at this. Big, beautiful cottonmouth. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Let's just chill out. No need to get worked up, big guy. Look at him. He's handsome. Look at this. Look at that. Dude, this is the first in-hand Barbour's map turtle I've seen. I'm glad I wasn't tripping about that poop. I knew it was Barbour's poop. Oh, look at that. Name a more iconic duo. So just like with alligator snapping turtles, this is a species that Greg has got a project going on, so we're marking and measuring these. This is a really, really cool turtle. I mean, this is a new spot for both of us to see one, and it's on top of that an already very difficult turtle to get in hand. Super, super cool. All right, I took a few photos of this beautiful cottonmouth sitting on the edge of this scenic Piedmont oxbow. This is actually like a geographical feature that is definitely rare in the Piedmont in and of itself compared to the coastal plain. And that's part of why we get a snake that's more characteristic of the coastal plain living in this area, because the habitat, unlike a lot of North Georgia and a lot of the rest of Metro Atlanta, is actually very suitable for these snakes here. Well, that's as good of a look as we'll probably ever get at a immature female Barbour's map turtle. That is incredible. Just by far one of the prettiest turtles we have in the US, and one of the most fascinating ecologically too. This species displays like some of the most extreme sexual dimorphism you will see in any animal. The males are about this size, fully grown, and this is a juvenile female, only a couple years old. She will grow to the size of that slider we found earlier, maybe even a little bit bigger. But just fantastically beautiful turtle. She'll also lose that really dramatic sawback you see as she matures as well and become a little bit more flat. And her head will grow to be about the size of her entire body currently. Just a really, really fascinating turtle. Super beautiful, and definitely one of the rarest turtles we have here in Georgia too. Well, that is certainly among the coolest things we could have possibly found today, and Greg and I have been talking about them all day. I've seen tons of poop of what I've assumed to be this species in this exact stretch of creek. So it's really, really cool to finally get confirmation that they are actually here, and presumably in pretty good numbers. Just a very difficult turtle to detect, and an even more difficult turtle to get in hand. But just what a stunning animal. We'll get some photos. Greg is going to collect some data, and we'll let her go. Look at those eyes. The eyes don't even look real. Man, we are just in them today. Another rat snake. Look at that. Another black rat snake, too. I mean, that is hardly got any gray rat snake influence at all.
Check out the phone.
He passed the black rat test.
That's right.
Super chill.
Yep. Hello. That's my phone. That's my phone. Yep.
Such a handsome guy, yet again. And this one's not in shed either. He's looking his best. Although it is getting dark on us, as you can see. The sun's getting low in this time of year. The light does not hold as well as it does midsummer. Very nice. We're going to start making our way back to the car here in a second and maybe check another spot. But it's been such a good day. It's hard to even stop herping when you're just finding so much stuff like this. It really has felt like a spring day in terms of like how little effort we've put in and how many snakes we've found. And turtles too. All right, guys, well, there's another new species for the day. A ringneck under another piece of this kind of erosion tarp, whatever you call it. Not super exciting, but we've gone all day without seeing one. All right, guys, wrapping up the day because it's getting dark, but we just got a nice double musk turtle catch right here, one of each species. This is both of the musk turtles native to this part of Georgia. The common musk turtle on top, which we've seen one of today, and then the loggerhead on the bottom, which we've seen dozens of today. Two very common turtles, but really, truthfully, loggerheads are the more common of the two in these creek systems. But very, very cool way to end the day. We're running out of light, and we've been at it for a long time. We've been out since like 10 this morning, so it's been a very long day, but a very fun day. It went by very fast and felt almost like spring. but at the same time, very much so like fall. So we'll let these guys go back into the creek and probably call it a day unless we see something else in the next 5 minutes or so. Very, very cool way to end a very productive day, very turtle heavy day here in North Georgia.